Hello and welcome to. I'm not even gonna try and count the show number in my head because I'm lost. It's been a while, also. Jesper, we're back speaking English today because we are gonna talk about the Women's Super League in England after is it 4 rounds played? I think.
Yeah, for 4 rounds.
Uh,
Exactly.
yes, and then we are gonna talk about the dramatic ending in our own league here in Sweden, the Damallsvenskan, because this is, I think, I actually went back to look at the seasons before, and it's been a while since it was this even as it is now.
I was gonna say it. I haven't looked into it, but it feels like it's one of the best seasons seen to the drama in a
Yeah,
long time.
there's a. On the other hand, there is a clear like the league is divided into a top seven and and the teams below also seven teams. But I mean, top three, top four, even until the round that was played before this international break. I mean, it's a close call between playing in the Champions League qualifiers next season and not. And it's also a close call to who is going to win and become the league winners. And top three is, as it stands right now, it's BK Häcken, it's Hammarby EF, and it's Linköping FC.
Yeah.
So we're gonna use Playmaker data as usual to just dive in to look at the football being played from a data perspective.
Yes.
We're gonna use Playmaker's new platform. It's not so new anymore, I think, but we can
It's
call it.
nice to say. It's nice to say new, even though it
Yeah,
was
I
and
know.
it's like 2 months since it was like fully released. But it's yeah. I'm
Yeah,
probably gonna say new next spring as well. I'm probably
yeah.
gonna say
Time flies. This is like in Sweden. We actually, I don't know if you've been around this saying, but actually, when you change workplace in Sweden, you are allowed to say that you are new on your job for 1 year. Then you're not allowed anymore.
yeah,
So yeah.
that's I've heard that before.
So let's leave it with that, and so we will call it a new platform for 10 more months. And
Exactly.
knowing you guys at the Playmaker, then it would probably have come a time when the platform actually is new again in the coming months.
Yeah, probably have a new product. We're already sketching for yeah, different things. So
Yeah,
we'll see. I don't think we're gonna have a new product that's gonna replace the new platform. It's gonna be something that you can use together with it, or yeah,
yeah.
more yeah. Teaser, more to come. So I'll share my screen here, and then I think this is the
We're
best
gonna
way.
start with the Damallsvenskan, and then
Exactly.
we will finish this one off with the Women's Super League.
Exactly. And then if you want to know the basics of the platform, I recommend you to watch a few episodes back when we showed it the first time. But the basic idea is that you create your own data sets, and then you can view them and analyze them in the dashboards. So I've generated Damallsvenskan data set here and Damallsvenskan teams.
We also can see what team Jesper wants to win the Damallsvenskan when looking at.
Yeah, not very objective. The reason I have this is because I'm from Playmaker, also consulting in the scouting team for both men and women. So, but you can change your theme. We can look at it. For example, you can also change to
Oh yeah.
Linköpings FC.
So see, I have the brand on me when I do this now.
Exactly. Or you can use one of my favorites that is just one of the Playmaker themes that is called Playmaker Gold. So we can do that one. And yeah, we'll. I think I'll do this. I'll create a new dashboard that is just called Playmaker TV episode 22, like that, and then we can start looking at the teams. So we talked about the form and what so. So if we have all the teams in Damallsvenskan, before we can take a look at the expected points table, for example. And now we know that if you watched our episode, I think it was the last time, we showed that Häcken hasn't had the same form in expected points. They weren't a top two team by then after the World Cup. Now they played a bit better, so maybe it's become higher again. But all over the season, we talked about, or Mia mentioned that there was, I don't know if it was during the show or if it was before the show, but you talked about it being like a top 7 team, top 7 teams. Yeah. I can hide the columns like this until we get to points, so we have it next to it. Then we have like the points in comparison, and if you look at the teams, you really see in points it's a top 7. According to expected points, you could more maybe argue that it's a top 6, and that Vittsjö is a bit behind, that they've been very efficient. But they are also quite clear of Växjö and KIF Örebro that comes next. So maybe you can say it's a top 6, then it's Vittsjö, and then it's 4 teams, and then it's 2 teams, and then it's 1.
Yeah, we also need to clarify here that what you show in the green column is the expected points.
Yeah.
And that's for the whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you have points, who is the actual points at the moment as it stands. Exactly. So I think what's pretty clear here is that the top 3 teams and yeah, the top 3, they are overperforming in points.
Yeah.
Even though you said that Häcken was losing their good form after the World Cup. So that's quite interesting, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that it started like performing better after we had the last episode. Then there've been like an improvement.
We did good with that episode. It was the starting point of something for Häcken.
Exactly. We can illustrate the same thing in a scatter like this, having points here and expected points, and then you can see also like the top 6, Vittsjö, 4, 2 teams, and I mean it's super tight, like here in the bottom, and we'll see what happens. But for the next coming games, you have to help me say the schedule here. But Häcken has Hammarby away in next game, like a really big top 5 game, and then they have Piteå at home.
Yes.
And Hammarby has in the last game.
They have IFK Norrköping.
Yes, IFK Norrköping away. And then Häcken are ahead 3 points, and but 1 less goal difference than Hammarby. So like the Hammarby Häcken game is like a real final. If Hammarby wins, they will pass Häcken, and then for the last game, it's just about. It could be, if it's like a 1-0 win, it could be up to goal difference who wins. If both team wins the last game. I mean, I'm not taking for granted, even though if Hammarby wins against Häcken, I'm not taking for granted that Hammarby just goes to Norrköping and wins that game. Like it's going to probably, like they could lose points there. And Häcken could lose points to Piteå away at home as well. So
yeah, because what I do think is we dare to say now is that the top 3 is decided. Like not in what order this will end up, but the top 3 and those who will reach the Champions League qualifiers next season are Häcken, Hammarby, Linköping, depending on what order they will end up in. But it's also interesting because now when we talk about this, and this is quite, I'm pretty sure that we all agree on the fact that Rosengård is underperforming this season. But this is a very interesting topic now because we talked a lot about, the timing of the Champions League qualifiers for like teams in Europe, like Arsenal, Manchester United, Juventus, and Wolfsburg. They are all out of the Champions League. We're gonna stop here a little bit now, I think, because of the fact that Rosengård, they played the Damallsvenskan 2022, they won. When the Damallsvenskan finished last season, they also played before. Now I'm confused, but I'm confusing myself. But before this season, they played a group stage in the Champions League. It ended in December, but then there was already talks about the fact that they weren't getting any vacation between the preseason and the Champions League.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Now this upcoming Champions League group stage will be, if we're going to look at Häcken and FC Rosengård, who will play in the group stage this season as well, we have teams that they started their season in the end of February 2023, and then they've played more than half a season. Many players went to the World Cup to play in the World Cup for different national teams. Obviously, a majority of them were Swedish. And then they come back, and then they play the Damallsvenskan. At the same time, they will qualify for the Champions League, which they've done. So they will play the group stage now. These two teams will have their last group stage game in the end of January this time. And 1 month later, the Swedish season is up and running again. So if we're going to speak about why we see that Rosengård hasn't performed as usual, that could be a reason.
That could be a reason, and then it's interesting to see if is that going to be the same for Rosengård next season, or if it's going to be Häcken this time. That like Rosengård is doing the second time, so maybe they can prepare better for it. Like will Häcken do the same mistakes? We don't know, but we can come and look back. In the future. And I think, like, overall, if you take it now, it's a lot of Lillehammer's stats here as well, not only McLean, like it's in the entire season. But if you look at the entire season, if you look at the Spiders, like overall, they're quite similar, but just Häcken is a larger one. So and they also lead with 5 points in expected points. So if you're talking about performance over the entire season, then Häcken should deserve to win, or whatever you say, or like should be most likely to win. But
the data says that Häcken deserves to win. And also we must remind people here that Jesper just said that this is a little bit of Robert Vilahamn, who was Häcken's coach up until the World Cup. And then they hired a new coach to take over when Robert went to Tottenham Hotspur in the Women's Super League. So it will be interesting to see if we look at this spider now for Häcken, and then we will look at Tottenham spider. That's quite interesting, I think.
That's good, and that's a good. We can start with that when we dig into Women's Super League. I don't have them in the same data set now. I could have them in the same data set and compare them in the same spider. I haven't done it. I like, for the sense of the show, I'm not going back and generating it, but we can have them next to each other, and it's also more fair, because even though if you have them in the same spider, it's nice, but you have to remember that The numbers that are put in, they're still not compared with each other directly because the values are compared to other teams in their leagues, and it's like different leagues. So like you can definitely do the comparison, but you have to think about that it's like it's not completely fair, and it could be better looking at values, for example, to determine the style of play and so on. So if you look initially at the Spider, I wouldn't say it's like you have to maybe look more into characteristics. So for example, Häcken is very high on percentage of passes in final third. They're very low in Tottenham. That's interesting. The opposite. Passes per chain value looks pretty similar. When it comes to winning ball offensively, which Häcken was very good at, you can see that Tottenham is over average, but maybe they, for now, haven't achieved that like already. So like for now, it's like if you look at the Spider service, it's not super similar, but maybe if you would look more into the way of attacking and other event data, you could see more of the truth.
Also must say that Häcken is considered as a top team in Sweden.
Exactly, yeah.
Tottenham, it's not in a bad way, but they aren't a top team in the Women's Super League. And also with just 4 rounds played, it will be interesting to see how the Tottenham Spider looks compared to the last season as well.
Exactly.
To see what Robert Villahamn has brought in style of play, identity, and how he wants this Tottenham team to play to win games in the Women's Super League.
So I think we can start with the Women's Super League, and we can sort it out on expected points, and then Mia, you can comment. Like we have the points to the right, you have the points column here, and you have the expected points here. And I will make the table also smaller so we can see everything in one. And then you can start with Mia, if you look at the expected points, does it make sense to what you think, how good you think the team have been if you disregard from points, just on how they've played?
Yes, it actually does, because I do think that Manchester City will be a very interesting team to follow this season, and I think that this season they will be able to compete with Chelsea for the title for real this time. Even though the Women's Super League is a very competitive league and it's very even, I think that if you look at the way Manchester City has been playing now, because this is what I would like to talk about, then this is what we should expect. I do think that if you look at the squads and then talk about Chelsea, I do think that Chelsea is a hard team to analyze, even with numbers like this, because they usually are slow in the beginning of every season before they get their engines going for real. It's like they say they are so good at saving energy for when they need it. But last season, Manchester City did not start well. So that's also interesting.
One thing that I can also add to our expected points that we haven't said here is that we newly upgraded our model, and if you look at other platforms, I can't speak for all of them, but the typical thing is that you have an expected points model that is trained on expected goals and expected goal difference. But we have updated it since we've developed new models with expected threat, and we've seen that expected threat has a very high correlation, or the expected threat difference has a very high correlation to if you win games or not. We've added expected threat to our machine learning model, and also possession and where you have the possession in the game in percentage. So like it's not only which finishes you come up to in regards to expected points. It also considers like where you control the ball on the pitch, and it improved our model and gave it a higher accuracy when we compared it to historical data of several seasons. So that's quite interesting, and I also think that
this is actually one we should save and post.
Yeah, definitely. And we have an Fantomen wrote an article that we can also share. I don't remember if he wrote it in Swedish or English, but we should definitely save this because this is I think I don't know, but I think we're the only platform that has it.
Yeah, and this is also very interesting if you look at the XT per 90 here.
Yeah.
Like with Manchester City now.
Yeah.
And Chelsea, they have a high XT if you look at these 4 games. But I do think that game they played against Manchester City, I mean, Chelsea were not effective that game at all.
Exactly, and I think that and that's something that is good to mention here. That after only 4 games, the expected points is of course very much affected of like how tough has your schedule been. Like if you've met several of the good teams, then it's likely maybe that your expected points is lower, or if you're have had a pretty easy schedule, so to say, then your expected points maybe is high, but it's maybe because you've met teams that are below you in quality.
But still, it's only I think it's only has been Chelsea, Manchester City among these 4 rounds that have been like, okay, this is a clash for real. So
one thing that I was a bit surprised on in this table, but I don't know if I'm surprised or not. Maybe it's fair, but I think I've been very impressed with Leicester City in the start of the season, and to see them at what is it, 8th place. I thought maybe they would be a bit higher, but this says like they've gotten 1 win that they didn't deserve for this long.
Yeah, I think last season actually, I think people talk a lot about Aston Villa at the moment and why do they not perform? Because let's be honest, they haven't. But then you can go back and look at last season and think that, okay, but maybe they overperformed a lot last season. And something tells me that this season's Aston Villa, if you know what I mean by that, will be Leicester City.
Yeah. And and in the sense also on being last and then turning the season around.
Yeah.
No, we'll see.
Exactly.
We can do maybe it's always funny to compare Chelsea to Manchester City. We can do it again. We'll see here. Oh, I shouldn't do. I should write like that. So
we love the comparisons. They are.
Yeah, you love it. And now it's 2 very good teams, but one thing that's maybe a difference for so long, and you saw it also I think you saw it in the table here also, is that Chelsea's possession is higher than usual, isn't it?
Yes, Chelsea usually. I do also think that game, if it's only 4 games played, and I think that game against Manchester City, Chelsea played 11 versus 9 for quite many minutes, and 11 versus 10 for many minutes, like a full half. So that will probably explain that number a little bit, considering the low numbers of games that have been played already. But that will be something interesting to see if that still stands in 8 games played.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's not the like impression you have from the way Chelsea have been playing the last couple of years, that they want the ball, but often they end up with the ball a lot against the lower table placed teams.
Exactly. One thing that I think is pretty interesting, actually, which I saw here, is like if you look at entries into the box, for example, you can see that Chelsea is number 1 with Arsenal, so that means like how many times do they enter the opponent's penalty area and have control of the ball. But if you look at and it's the same if you look at if you look at touches in the box as well, you see a similar story. That's not the only entries. That's how many actions you would say, or how many touches your players has in the box.
Yeah.
But although if you instead look at expected, and then it can correlate with expected threats, so you can see like the quality of like how good Chelsea actually is in not only having high possession but also like entering
What they do with the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Entering in a qualitative way.
Can we watch some numbers on defending here, maybe?
Yeah, we can do that. We can see what I had in store. We can reverse it and look at expected threat against. Then you can see that Arsenal has been the most successful team, like in regards of and expected threat against really means avoiding the opponent to control the ball inside your final third and inside the penalty box, and also do it in a qualitative way. Like since it's not
But
only
this is very interesting because Arsenal have been conceding goals from real errors.
Yeah.
So far, like the error has been bad, I would say, for a team with Arsenal's quality.
Yeah, and I mean, now this is maybe not like only speaking about Arsenal, but in general, I think that if, for example, if you would have a bad pass, for example, if you would pass an opponent in a very threatened area, then your opponent is not generating the threat until they do an action. So if they are like awarded the ball in a dangerous area, then they just like received an expected threat, but they haven't generated, so you wouldn't see it in the model. But although like if they would start an attack, then it would be. So what I'm saying is maybe that like the highest or the best way to receive a good expected threat is that you have a successful build-up, like all the way from. It doesn't need to be like with a lot of passes. It could be few, but like that it goes the entire way from start to bottom.
And I think that has been Arsenal's biggest problem so far. They have been creating a lot of chances. They have a lot of entries inside the box. I think I saw that when you showed that earlier.
Yeah.
And they have, I mean, they have a good build-up play. But they have been making like not only individual errors, but also errors in a unit on the pitch that has been very crucial for them when it all comes down to it. So
yeah, one plot that we can look at that I think is kind of interesting in style of play, and I think we can see two differences here, is that here I have average chain start height. And what does that mean? That means like where on the pitch in regards to meters from your defending goal do you on average like start the attack. And that's that could mean like that you're usually, if you have a high average start height, you're very successful in like winning back the ball from pressure or like counter pressure on the offensive half. If you have a lower number, it means that you're maybe not focusing on pressure at all, or if you're not very good in having any effect on your pressure. And then I put it together with passes per chain, that is more like how many passes do you have on average in each attack. And that attack doesn't need to, or possession sequence is maybe the correct word, because it doesn't need to like end in a finish. It's just like when you start passing the ball. And usually, like if you have a higher passes per chain value, then usually your coach is like trying to implement more of like possession in sense of control, that you also want to like put your team, like you want to pass the ball so the opponent can't have it, and like as long as you have the ball, you have control, and you're not maybe necessarily playing with the high risk, or like you could play with a high risk, but if you have like high risk per pass, it's usually lower. And then you can see a big difference between both North London teams, that we have Lillehammer that had very high passes per chain in Häcken as well. But he's not winning the ball. Or we could change this one to, now since I'm talking about one balls for, we can look at like one balls offensive half for final third. We can do maybe offensive half first. You can see that like he's, compared to Manchester United and Liverpool, he's not winning the ball that high. Or if you look at final third, which is more of a like even higher up, you can also see that it's lower. We can go back to average change start height. So I think that's quite interesting. Now I don't know how to get it away because this is a new feature, but I accidentally added a trend line here, which is quite nice. Okay, you use
Manchester City and Chelsea. They look good.
Yeah, and this is you just double press the screen. So now I know. So it's just like this trend line. You can do it on any plot, and it really just says like what's the average trend. So if you're close to it, like you have a pretty normal value, like in the ratio of if you have this chain start height, how many passes per chain do you usually have? And if you are further away, then you stand out in the sense of like Arsenal has a way higher average chain start height in comparison to how many passes per chain they have.
I think if Arsenal just would get their goal scoring going, then Arsenal is a title challenger big time. It's just their problem is that they haven't. So, but we talk also about before we started to record to look at some players. So let's look at players in the Damallsvenskan now. We'll mix this episode a little bit now at the moment. At the end of the season, the Swedish season and the Women's Super League season, I think you guys at Playmaker will award players just based on data.
Yeah, exactly.
Players have the best data.
Yeah.
We're not going to look at we can't show the full, like every data here, right? Or could we? So we can see what player is.
I can't reveal like in comparison to the overall grade because that's soon to be released in the platform. But we can look at different kind of metrics and maybe get a hint. But
yeah,
we haven't since Damallsvenskan isn't finished. We haven't like it isn't determined yet either. So things can happen. So even if I would say like she's probably gonna win, it's not determined yet. So
anything can happen also in 2 games.
Yeah,
we all know that.
So I looked at. I took maybe we can. We do this one. First, I just looked at expected threat passing, and then we've talked about it, Mia, on our WhatsApp. Yeah. But you have 2 Swedish youngsters here, Anna Sandberg and Lisa Björk, in the top here with very high numbers.
And the expected threat passes. That's these 2 also play sort of the same position. I would say. The difference is that Häcken play with a back 4 and Anna Sandberg is a left fullback, but a very offensive left fullback in the way Häcken plays. And Lisa Björk she started the season on the left-hand side as a left wing back, but now she's been playing on the right side, the same position.
Yeah, exactly. And and I think overall, like if you compare it, you would see that Anna Sandberg and Lisa Björk, then Anna Sandberg is she has a bit more more tools to her playing style if you would compare to, but Lisa Björk has a very, very high edge in her qualities. I think one feature that I can look at, I don't know if I've showed it to you, Mia, but I definitely haven't showed it in PlaymakerTV, I'm pretty sure. But it's like now I had a lot of KPIs here, and it's like not that maybe that nice to have a spider with all these you can't read. So then you can put here in the bottom right corner, you can press, and then you could like you can like select. So we can if we don't want to show some of the spiders or some of the KPIs, I mean, we can like just choose them here. So usually I get away with the percentage things, for example. Yeah, and if you want to do that, then you move them over here, and then you don't see them anymore.
More readable. It's more readable when you do that. So
that means that you can do a data set with a lot of KPIs, and then when you do the spider comparison, you can like choose which one you want. You can, for example, also like only put over all of them, kind of, and then you can think like what do we want to compare these two players at? We want to compare them at carry progress, process, dribbles, maybe final third entries, interceptions, and then do like shot assists and tackles, and then the 2 XT metrics.
I can reveal this now because I've seen the data between Lisa Björk and Fridolina Rolfö. There are many similarities between them. The only thing that differs them at the moment is Fridolina's defensive abilities that she has really developed over the 2 seasons she has been with Barcelona now.
Yeah. And I think now we have metrics we could have used more, but now we have metrics that we know is like maybe characteristic for this position and that they both are good at. And then you can see the same thing, that one comparison is like the defensive area covered on average for Lisa Björk. Maybe that comes from her playing at a wingback position, even though Anna Sandberg is really offensive. But I can think that is one explained, because usually wingbacks has a very high defensive area covered. But then overall, you can see that Lisa Björk is like has an even higher edge when it comes to dribbles, expected threat carries, that is very linked to dribbles and carries and the shot assists. But Anna Sandberg has more tools as a broader player. But I think that we maybe should, if we want to do it, we should do some Women's Super League in the end here.
Let's look at some players in the Women's Super League based on the same KPIs as we watched.
That's a good idea. Maybe we do.
That's the difference now, because this is interesting. Now we saw that the 2 players that topped your bar table there was 2 youngsters. They're not. I think Anna Sandberg is 20 years old.
I think exactly. Anna Sandberg is born in 2003 and Lisa Björk 2004, I think.
Yeah, so it's interesting now to look at the Women's Super League.
Yeah, and it's only 4 games, but then we have the expected threat passes. It looks like this after only 4 games. Maybe not exactly the same thing, but very interesting players, of course.
Obviously, Mary Fowler is not that. She's a young player, I would say. And after her performance in the World Cup, I'm not surprised that she's top 3 in XT passes there.
And who do we want to compare her to? Someone's in particular?
Yeah, that's interesting. Also, I'm not even sure where she plays. I think she's a winger, right? Or
we can do other players in comparison. We can do maybe we can look at like Russo in Arsenal and someone else.
And then you have also she hasn't played all games, so that would be bad.
We can look at maybe Olga. That's also fun.
Yeah. I'm so I'm laughing every time someone is trying to pronounce Olga's last name, both in the UK but also in Sweden. Everyone is pronouncing it wrong, and because it seems hard to say Atinen.
Yeah. I can imagine it's.
Yeah.
It is. I thought
In
maybe we
Sweden,
can.
everyone say Ahtinen,
Yeah.
but it's Atinen. So
Yeah. I thought we would. I'm selecting some KPIs that I know that she was good at in Damallsvenskan, and then we will just look at that spider and see like.
compare her to Sophie Ingle.
Okay. So, and maybe this can also be a part of like her role in Tottenham compared to what they had in Linköping. But it's interesting to see like final third entries, like the number of times you make the team enter final third with carries or passes. Like she's still very high, and like if you look at the passing game with pass prog dist and shot assists, and the more reactive or progressive defending in interceptions, then she's still scoring very high. One thing that is here is maybe the defensive stats in some sense. Like I'm not saying that she's in any way performing bad or anything, but she was so dominant when it came to like winning tackles and winning the ball high in Damallsvenskan. And you can't see, if you compare to Sophie Ingle, for example, you can't see her Olgatinen performing in that level yet, or having that maybe responsibility.
No.
Also, the expected threat passes, like the time you make line breaking passes and so on, she had a very high value in Damallsvenskan last year for that score as well. And as for now, she doesn't have it, but still a very good start to her. And you and me, Mia, we said all the time that like, okay, she's not 19, but she should definitely get a chance in a top 5 league, and now she has it, and I'm very glad to continue to follow it.
Yeah, and I'm very glad about the club she chose to play for also.
Yeah.
Might seem weird to say that, because I do think that many of the best players in the Damallsvenskan deserve to play in a really like the top teams, but in terms of that you need playing time also, and it's gonna be very interesting to see how much game time a player like Kara Cooney-Cross will have at the end of this season, who went from Hammarby in the Damallsvenskan during the summer break after the World Cup, now when Arsenal won't play in the Champions League, and they have player coming back from injuries, very important players, I would say, in Beth Mead and Viviane Miedema right now, and they will have Leah Williamson back during the season, I hope, as well.
Yeah, same here.
It's like always when we speak about players and data and everything, Jesper, we could speak forever.
We can speak forever, and
yes.
I know that you have to go now, Mia, and I also have to go soon, but we will be back in 2 weeks, and then we'll see what we talk about. I know we want to break
probably talk about the winners of the Damallsvenskan, maybe.
Yeah, we'll probably do that and break down the prizes, and it would be really nice to have a prize winner on the show.
Yeah,
now I missed speak,
we need to fix that.
And then also later in the season, I would like to go through the Nations League and maybe see how the national teams have done since the World Cup and so on.
That would be nice if we will get the data from the Nations League, because that's.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyways, take care in the meanwhile. And if you have any questions to me and Mia, or want to talk to us, reach out on Twitter. That's the best way. And we'll see you in a while.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.